Yo, GD here, and as you can see, we are on F125, and this is actually my first gameplay video I have released, and I've been doing quite a lot of lobbies over the past couple of days. We are still only on day 2 of the game, but I just want to say first of all, thank you so much to everyone who has been joining these. It's actually been a really good experience. I haven't done open lobbies for quite a while. I used to do it all the time back in the day. But the people who've been joining this, the racing has been amazing. And yeah, open lobbies are still chaotic, but a lot of the people who've been joining are very high quality. And it's just been a very enjoyable experience. And I think a lot of that is down to people who have been a member of my channel. So if you click that join button, you will get a priority invite into these lobbies. So I've been inviting a lot of people into these lobbies. People who actually want to race, actually want to learn things. So if you really want to try and have as clean racing as possible online, then really consider clicking that join button, becoming a YouTube member, because you'll get access to all of my setups as well. Because I am using custom setups in here, and this one that Zam bought, I think you'll see in this video and in the China race after this, was working very well, because the setup approach is actually quite different on this game. So there's a lot of things you definitely need to tweak, and it gives you up to over a second a lap compared to like a preset setup. And also you'll get direct access to me, so any questions you want to ask, just tag me in the channel once you become a member. And yeah, I really hope you've been enjoying it, and thank you so much again. But moving to the video itself, you can see by the title, it's really about me giving my initial impressions of the game so far. Again, we are on day 2 of the game, so there is plenty of time to go. But I really wanted to just give you my initial thoughts. Please let me know what yours are if you do have early access to the game. And you can see by the title, it's actually going to be mostly positive. And if you've been watching me for a while, I'm not afraid to speak my mind when it comes to these games, because I've been playing them since I think about 2010, league racing competitively. And in that time, I feel there's only really been a handful of games that I thought, wow, that was actually really good for its time. And I think in recent years, I'm not alone when most people have been pretty disappointed in the product they've received. So we'll be going over some pros and cons. I think I'll just start off with the cons first, just kind of get those out the way and then move on to more positive things. I think the first con really is that, yes, this is the same game as F124, F123, F122. It's exactly the same. The only thing that has changed really is just how the cars look. So the liveries, the sounds, the handling's been tweaked, and that's kind of what we have had every single year. So it doesn't feel like a new game. Kind of feels like a patch update, which people are paying £80 for, which I don't think it is worth that whatsoever. But unfortunately, that is the reality. So I really hope in the near future, because I think F124 Codemasters under quite a bit of pressure to really actually start delivering a game, because I think the license is coming to an end soon. So I don't know if it'll be up for renewal, but I think the sales they had of last year's game and kind of the feedback they've got, I think they definitely need to step up the game. Because yeah, the multiplayer system's the same, where it's kind of quite a laggy experience, especially on crossplay. So there's a lot of loading times. There's a lot of mini screen freezes when people are joining. The game crashes quite a lot and you have to restart the lobby. So all of those things kind of still remain. So it is exactly the same thing. We still have some of the same bugs we had for the past year or 2 years. One thing that I really want them to move straight away, and I think you've just seen it right here, perfectly on cue, is get rid of the smoke. Please get rid of this smoke. It is not as bad as F124, but if you're within 5 to 6 tenths, it still blinds you, and the cars ahead are not even locking up. So if cars are actually locking up, fair enough, that's fine, but we just don't need it. So please, Codemasters, patch that out. You didn't patch it for the entire last year's game. If I could just ask for one thing right now, it's just patch that. And yeah, everything else, the menus, they have just been uploaded with a different picture, a different graphic, change the sound of everything, but everything underneath is exactly the same as F124. But getting those out of the way, moving into the pros, which, again, you can see by the title, I'm actually pleasantly surprised with, because I didn't play the beta. I didn't even sign up to the beta at all. Because when I have in the past, they've usually changed everything by the time you get to the release of the game. So I decided not to do that. I relied on other people to kind of tell me. I watched a lot of footage from people with the beta, and there was a lot of really good noise coming out of that. So I was actually quite excited to play this game. And initially, my first impression is that I'm actually quite impressed with the handling, and I think that is probably the main highlight so far. And yeah, they do tweak the handling each year, but I'll go into detail of why I actually like that, because I think it's actually quite a good breath of fresh air, really, to be honest, and something that's going to suit me much more. And I think the main thing is that it's a lot more natural and a lot more realistic, whereas on the previous F1 games, I think they have been way too arcadey for my liking. Understand this is not a sim, and it's not going to be like an iRacing, but I think they did need to shift a little bit more towards a realistic, natural feeling, more towards what F1 actually deal with on a regular basis. But I think the first thing to mention, I think the balance between the ERS, so the battery, the DRS, slipstream, and the dirty air, that was probably my biggest complaint with the handling last year. Not just that, but also with this really aggressive flicking of the steering wheel. That's something I absolutely hated on last year's game, but it wasn't quite as beneficial in the race. But it was also the balancing. So on last year's game, I think it was too easy to save the battery. The battery was too powerful. DRS was really powerful as well. Everything was just kind of too easy and too powerful. This year's game, I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think the balance of that is significantly better. So I think it's much harder to save battery. It's a lot easier to overuse the battery, particularly with the deployment, and the deployment actually runs out really quickly, so you have to be a lot more calculated when you actually use the battery. This is something I really enjoy. This is something I really enjoy in a game such as like 2018. And yeah, to save the battery, it's actually quite hard to do so. You don't have to do this shifting down gear when you're in no ERS, like we had that glitch for the entire last game. That's been taken out now, so when you shift down or when you select non-ERS, it automatically starts saving the battery, and you will see that throughout this video here. So I think the balancing of that is really good. But I think one of the main highlights, and some people might disagree, or in some cases it could be a little bit too much in some cases, I think the dirty air is the best it's ever been, and it is pretty powerful on this game. So to get within 6/10 of the car ahead of you is really difficult, and you just get so much understeer, and you'll probably see that in some clips here, and I'll be showcasing it in other videos to come, because I think I did a Silverstone race recently where you really see it. Luckily we just saved the car there, but dirty air is a major factor. So I feel like it's not as beneficial to be following a car anymore, or it's just much harder to be following a car. Whereas on last year's game, it was super easy to follow a car. I know F1 Esports, on their build, they had a little bit more dirty air, but on the actual main build of the game, the consumer build, I felt like there really wasn't enough. So I don't think it's as beneficial. You still save more battery being the car behind, but then you're going to have to suffer with the dirty air. And like going through these corners here, you almost have to choose the line where you're not following the car directly in front. So it's kind of like if you've driven the wet in like go-kart racing, you've got to try and take the line where the rubber's not there. So you have to take like almost an opposite line to the car ahead of you. And if you can choose the line where they're not occupying that space, the car just grips up all of a sudden. So I really like that.
Okay, clear.
It just makes it feel a lot more realistic. This is something that I think actually provides a true challenge. And this is something that the real life drivers suffer with on quite a regular basis. And now the game is actually replicating this quite well. Again, in some scenarios, it might be a little bit too strong. I think on tracks like Jeddah, when you're running quite low downforce, I was struggling with that quite a bit. And then really long, high-speed corners, I think sometimes it is so much, a little bit too much. But I would rather have it than not have it. Let's put it that way. And you can see here, look, you can see I've spotted the gap here, and look how much the car has gripped up. Whereas if I was right behind him, following the same line, I would just be getting so much more understeer. And I feel the way they've done this, it is going to reward drivers who have better pace, the more of a skill gap between drivers. Whereas in last game, even if you were way faster than the car behind, they could basically stick to you like they were attached to you, like a caravan or something like that. So now I feel there's a lot more of a skill element. You have to be a lot more tactical with the battery, where you position the car as well. So the dirty air, I'm actually a really, really big fan of. Next is the tyre model. I think on this game, or the way I feel in this game so far, is that you can really feel the loss of grip lap upon lap. So every lap that passes, you just feel that chronic understeer more and more. Whereas on last game, it was kind of once your tyres hit a certain percentage, then you could really feel it. On this game, I felt like you could feel it lap upon lap, and then when you add the dirty air on top of that as well, just makes it feel like a much more realistic experience. I feel like I just get a much more feedback from the tyres in this game. Understeer gets a lot worse once the tyre wear kicks in, so you just really, really have to manage your races a lot more. So I will be doing some 25% lobbies probably tomorrow, so if you'd like to join that, again, click that join button. And the next thing I would say is that the braking is surprisingly technical. I think of this game, I can really feel, in his example, the dirty air, see where I'm off that line, how much more car the actually grips up. But yeah, with the braking, I feel like you can feel when the car's about to lock up, and then you can kind of recover it. So you initially get a little bit of a lock, but then if you just release the brake a little bit more as you turn in, you can kind of get that rotation back. Whereas I think on previous F1 games, kind of once you've locked up, that's almost it, and you can't really recover. Once in this, I feel like you just get a lot more feedback from the braking and from the tyre model, but particularly on the brakes, you get way, way more feedback. So I think it just makes it feel a lot more natural and a lot more realistic to me. In terms of the traction, what I do like is that you really have to rotate the car quite aggressively by going on the traction. And again, you can see this dirty air, so really, really big struggle. But in like tight speed corners, when you're not in the dirty air, you have to get on the power aggressively. And because the car can bog down really, really easily if you don't. But you need to get on that power aggressively. Like you saw me at Zandvoort in this video, you have to use the traction to regenerate. So you're about to see it here now. Now, it's really essential that you do that. But if you do it too much, you will actually go over the limit, and it actually will punish you quite a bit as well. So overall, for me, the handling just feels way more natural, way more realistic. Not saying it's the best handling that I have ever experienced in an F1 game, because we're only on day 2 of the game, so we won't get ahead of ourselves. But compared to the last 2 or 3 years worth of F1 games, this just feels a lot more natural, a lot more realistic, I would say. And I feel like it's definitely going to reward drivers who are a lot more smoother. Yes, you can still do the flicking with the steering. You see me even do it when I turn into a corner. If I'm going a little bit deep, you can do it. But if you do that in the race too much, this is something I've tested, you will be punished very, very severely with the tyre model on this game. And that's why setups are very, very important as well. And it just kind of reminds me of F1 2018, where you can't actually drive flat out every single lap. You have to really manage it. You can see again, locking up, but then I was able to recover it. So you just get that feedback from the car straight away when you're actually about to lock up, or when you're about to have a little bit of a wheel spin moment. You can actually react to it rather than anticipating it's going to happen. Because I think on previous F1 games, you kind of assume something was going to happen and then you had to counter it. Now I feel like you get way more feedback from the game, which just makes it a really refreshing experience. So far, in terms of the handling, I've actually been very, very impressed. It's the most fun I've had on an F1 game for quite some time, for quite a few years actually, in fact. And if they can fix some things that I mentioned, and obviously there's a lot more things to fix, still think they need to change the game engine. They need to build something complete from scrap. I think they absolutely have to do that within the next 1 or 2 years. Is it worth £80? Probably not, because you're effectively just paying for a patch and a DLC. But if we're just moving aside from that, I'm actually being pleasantly surprised at this handling and how intuitive it is and how satisfying it is to actually play. So again, it feels much more natural, much more realistic. You're gonna have to manage your tires, your races much more, and I think it's just gonna be rewarding drivers who actually have more pace rather than making it too easy for drivers who maybe are quiet on that pace. So let me know what your thoughts are so far. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for everyone who's been joining these hobbies as well. I'll be doing many tutorial videos as well as content from here. So again, if you're interested in coaching from me, visit www.coachnotes.com. Click the join button to join these races, access to my setups, speak to me directly. Hope you're enjoying it so far, and I will catch you very, very soon. Peace.